So today we're going to learn how to do a foundationless half double, or in the UK terms, a foundationless half treble, in efforts to build short blocks, or steps as some folks call it. Now when you're doing this and you've created your set off to the side and you want to come back, typically what you're left with is going to be a hole right around this region where you've worked back on the top and now you have to join to your existing row. Well, we're going to show you how you can avoid that hole, leaving less of a gap. So traditionally, when you do your foundationless chain or half, you're going to do 2 chains, and then you're going to come back through the loop here on this first chain. So typically what you would do, over, under that front and the back loop, yarn over, pull up, leaving 3 loops on your hook. Your next step would be yarn over, under the first leg, yarn over, and through all 3. There's your first half double. So when you came back, you would be going through these 2. You would keep going. Your second one, yarn over, through the top 2, or in this case the bottom 2, yarn over, back through, yarn over, through 1, yarn over, through all 3, and there's 2. 1, 2. So let's keep going, and I'll show you after I do a couple more, just so you get an idea of how we would do the comeback row in a traditional sense of the foundationless half double. Over, through, over 1, through all, over, through 1, through all, over, through 1, and through all. Alright, so now we're going to need to make our comeback pass. But look at this. Look at how the row you just created sits so much higher. Keep that in mind when we do your traditional comeback. Alright, so we need to put in our turning chain. I'm going to chain 1, turn. So again, see how we're sitting so much higher on our comeback row than we are on the second one? Just keep that in mind. We're going to half, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we did 5 foundationless across. We've done our 1 turning chain. Well, it depends on the pattern that you're working. It may be 1 turning chain, it may be 2, but in this instance we did 1 turning chain, and now we just did 5 halves going back across. Okay, now look at your height difference again here. Huge height difference. I mean, in some cases this could actually be considered the height of a full double, or in the UK sense, a triple. All right, so if we were to keep going on as the pattern actually suggested, we would be doing halves across this row. So let's go ahead and do that. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, now look at this. See how when we look at this, when your pattern is laid out, you have a big hole right here in the middle. Well, once you start stacking these up, those holes tend to really stick out. So how do you go about not seeing this hole? How do you make that gap less obvious? All right, well, let's go back. Let's take this back to where we were starting our foundationless half double. All right, remember how when you start a foundationless chain or half, you would do 2 chains. Okay? Well, we're not going to do 2 chains this time. We're only going to do 1. So 1 chain. And now, instead of coming back into this first loop that we created, we're actually going to come into the legs of the last half double that we did. So when we turn it, this is where I'm going to be putting my hook. Those are the legs from the last half double. So I'm going to treat it just like I do any normal foundationless half, except I'm going to go into these legs, come through, and I'm just going to keep going like I would for any other half double. So through 1, through all 3, through 1, through all 3, through 1, through all 3, do 2 more, through 1, all 3, through 1, through all 3. All right, so we'll do our turning chain. And again, remember, this turning chain is just based on the pattern that I'm actually going by now. They call for just 1 turning chain. I think a lot of other pattern designers actually, when it comes to half doubles, they'd rather you use 2 chains for your turning chain. But again, we're only doing 1. All right, so we've got our 1 chain. We're going to go back doing 5 half doubles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, oh shoot, I'm sorry. I did 6 half doubles. All right, so here we go. We've got 6. Now, we're right back to where we were before we started our foundationless. So, let's take care of that gap. We're going to come in and just do a couple of halves on our original foundation. Now look, we have much less of a gap now. See where there would have been a huge hole right there in the middle? No more hole. Well, let me rephrase that. You have a hole, it's just much less visible. All right, that's it.